All right, you guys, we have a big one. We have a mother effing big one this week, okay? So we all need to just sing Kumbaya for a minute. But no, seriously, this is your weekly horoscope for April 21st to the 27th, okay? And this is a heavy week. This is a karmic shit show, showdown, grand finale of so many different things at once, okay? Like, this is a really big week. Okay, there's a lot going on. There's a lot we're probably feeling that is kind of coming to an ending or coming to a boiling point, one of the two. And it's not, for some people, it may be kind of like, okay, the pot is starting to boil over. For other people, it's like, okay, the volcano is erupting, alrighty? And so I am definitely feeling Mars and Leo, if you cannot tell. So we are going to make this horoscope way more entertaining than my last few have been. I do apologize. I feel like my last few horoscopes, I've been a little like down in energy for just different various reasons. I haven't been very happy with them. So, but we are going to make this one quite fun and entertaining as I am feeling I'm feeling Mars moving through my first house of Leo, and I am loving it. Okay. I'm loving it. So this is a heavy week, right? And there's a lot that is happening where we have been feeling pulled between two different like polarities in our lives. And there's this kind of, just boiling point this week that is pushing us to some kind of peak, some kind of like moment where either we get off the fence, we snap, we finally make a decision. It's going to be different for different ones of you. Maybe it's just a revelation. Maybe it's finally taking action, making a really big, abrupt change in your life that is for the better, because that's really what we are thinking about here, especially with the sun in Taurus now. We are thinking about what is going to add more quality to our life. What is going to make my life feel better? What do I really desire? What is in alignment with my values, right? What feels good to me? How am I seeing all of this? Like, where is it all leading? And so there's a lot of future focused changes that are like really in the air this week. Like, we are thinking about the future a lot. Plus we have, some nodal transits happening, the sun in Taurus, Pluto and Aquarius. There's just a lot here where it feels maybe like a detrimental moment in time, a consequential moment in time. It's like, what do you want? I talked about the notebook scene in my Libra full moon video where the guy, like at the end where he's like, what do you want? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, what do you want? It's like, that's kind of what we're dealing with lately, right? And because all of this has been very Venusian, very Martian, it's trying to really show us what we truly want and how to clear away the stuff that is keeping us from what we want as we move into this new chapter. Maybe we thought we wanted things that we figured out we didn't really want. Maybe we, went after something that we wanted, but it didn't work out, or there was something that came up, and now we've been sitting on the sidelines of life and just bitching about it instead of trying to go after it again, right? So it's like there could be so many different ways this could be playing out for so many of you, but this is a big deal. And I'm going to briefly go over what this means for the signs at the very end of this. But I want you to watch the beginning of this video because this is a big one. This is a big week. It's a very karmic week. Everything that I've been talking about, okay, for my whole entire life has been about this week. I'm just kidding. I lied there. But everything I've been talking about since pretty much the end of last year has been preparing us for this mother effing week. Okay, so it is very important. Everything we went through for the last several months now, since around November of last year, is coming to some kind of boiling point this week where we can no longer do one thing without the other, or hold on to one thing without the other, or we have to let go of something, or we have to make a decision, or we have to make some kind of change in our lives. And that is what this is boiling down to. We can no longer sit on the fence. We can no longer sit in fear. We can no longer allow the consequences or the fears or the insecurities to outweigh our true desires, our true heart's desires. And so this is all pushing us towards our true mother effing heart's desires. And so that's where we're at. That is where we're at. So we have quite a few big things happening this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we're going to be feeling them at all times throughout the week. Okay. And so I really see this week as an intense breaking point. Like I said, big lessons kind of coming to a head, coming to a close, and coming back around for many people. This is a very karmic time. And I'm not just saying that because it's like woo-woo or like whatever. This really is like Saturn is involved, the North Node is involved, like Pluto is involved. There's a lot involved here that is making this a very intense karmic time frame, a very intense karmic grand finale, if you will, a karmic showdown. And I'm sure many of us have been feeling it. I know all the clients that I've had recently, all of you guys that I've given readings to recently have been feeling it, have had a lot of crazy stuff happening in their lives the last several months now. I know my life, I feel like I could literally create a movie out of my life over like everything that's happened in like the last several months. I mean, it is insane. I could probably write a book like just on the last few months alone. It's been that insane. If it hasn't been that insane for you, then consider yourself lucky. Okay. You can still watch. You're still welcome, but you're lucky. You're a lucky bitch. Okay. So this week we have this grand finale, and it's not a good week for trying to move very fast. Yes, there may be something that comes up out of nowhere that triggers a really quick change, but with the sun in Taurus, this is a week to slow the fuck down, to ground in the earth as much as possible, okay? Get your ass on the earth, go hug a tree. Like, we really need some grounding this week, because if not, it could start to feel, if it starts to feel real heavy, okay, we need to kind of ground ourselves. We have a lot of fixed energy right now, and some mutable energy with the Pisces transits and some cardinal energy with the, Aries transits. And so, but we have a lot of fixed energy happening this week in particular, a lot of fixed transits. And so this energy can start to feel stifling, kind of claustrophobic, kind of stuck, intense, heavy, stubborn, it's just like, ah. I think though, for the most part, most of us, even if we're feeling that somewhat with some things, I think that this is kind of a facing off point, because there's been so much that has happened that has led us to here, and Mars is now finally facing off with Pluto for the final time. This is like a finale in a way, like I keep saying, even though the finale will really be when Mars comes back around to its conjunction with Pluto early next year. But still, nonetheless, this is a finale still in a lot of ways, at least with what we've been going through for the last several months now. And so also try to find humor in it, because Mars is in Leo, okay? Mars is in Leo. We don't have to be so serious about everything. Yes, there are some things that are important to be serious about, but I promise you, if you can find a way to like laugh it off, or, make a joke out of it, make fun of yourself, like listen to music that puts you in a good mood, like, enjoy this Leo energy while we have it, okay? Make light out of, situations that can feel a little bit difficult this week, and it can be very, very helpful. I'm not talking about using it in some toxic way. I'm talking about, allow yourself to feel the lightness of this Mars and Leo transit a little bit. And it can be at least somewhat fun to find some humor in all the chaos and all the karmic stuff that's coming up. It's like, wow, I'm really seeing the other side of that now, and yeah, just let it be what it is, right? And so, like I said, we've been being pulled between two opposites. This could be two opposite lives. We could feel like it's like we want one thing, but we also want another. Or we've been feeling like we're being pulled between what we're passionate about, or where our spark is versus where our evolution is, and the deeper desires that we may have with this Mars-Pluto opposition. Plus, what's comfortable now is in the mix with the Taurus sun. What's comfortable, safe, secure, grounding, consistent, compatible. And so there's a lot going on here with this, feeling torn between two different things in some way in our lives. And, this week it's coming to a head with some kind of bang. Like our true, deep desires that we may have not wanted to face, or the fears around what we desire that we may have not wanted to face, can no longer be repressed. And we've got to get honest with ourselves about that, no matter how scary or inconvenient. And, we'll be feeling a lot of this all week, like I said. So this is kind of the name of the game this week. There's kind of this love and loss theme, Saturn conjunct Venus, Mars and Leo. What do you love? What's your true heart's desire? What turns you on? Turns your soul on, baby? What makes you smile? What makes you laugh? What makes you passionate? What makes you ambitious? What makes you feel like the king or the queen of your world, versus, Pluto, death, the more darker, serious, deeper, hidden, subconscious, unconscious material that we don't want to face, It's like we're jamming in our car and having a good time and thinking about how fucking awesome we are. And then you pass like a fatal car crash, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, damn, you know, and it just completely changes your mood. And those are kind of the two polarities that we are dealing with a lot this week, light and dark. What we desire, what we want, but also our unconscious desires and truths in a lot of ways. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to pull up my screen here so we can take a look together. Alrighty, you should be able to see my chart up on the screen now. Let's go ahead and get into this bad boy. So we're going to start with April 23rd, which is this Wednesday. We're going to have the sun here now in Taurus, squaring Pluto here in Aquarius, okay? And, you know, this is definitely a tense transit, okay? Again, more light and dark stuff. This kind of struggle or this challenge between the sun and Taurus, where it feels, you know, the sun in Taurus wants to feel comfortable. It wants to act in alignment with its values and with the things that feel good to it. It wants to, you know, feel like it is stable, secure, consistent. It wants to go at its own pace. It wants to be able to stop and smell the roses. It wants to be in a beautiful environment. And then we have Pluto here, you know, and Pluto here is like, yeah, but there's some deep stuff that needs to be felt, faced, dealt with. There's something here going on underneath of it all that is uncomfortable. So even though this happens on Wednesday, we're going to be feeling this by the very start of the week. These are uncomfortable yet big karmic shifts this week. And this is what this is all about, you know? And so Pluto here in Aquarius is really showing us something that is going on behind the scenes, something we can't ignore, something that may not feel good, something going on maybe within our minds or within our social lives or within our relationships with other people. I really feel like this is potentially something to do with like what's necessary versus what's comfortable. Like what we want to evolve into, the change that we need to evolve into with Pluto and Aquarius, or where other people still have power over us, or where there's certain fears regarding certain social situations in our lives, fears even regarding what's going on in the world at large, our futures, versus being comfortable and living our own lives and following our own values and our own wants. And, you know, like, it's like, no, thank you. I'd rather like sit here on my couch in my cozy blanket with like my, you know, caramel latte with like oat milk and watch my favorite Netflix series. That's like the sun in Taurus, like wear my cozy slippers and, you know, hang out in my cozy robe and, you know, DoorDash my favorite meal. And Pluto and Aquarius is like, but what about the future? What about what's going on? What about everything else? What about the situation you've been avoiding at work or with your, you know, with your coworkers? Or what about the situation that you're really feeling something uncomfortable with in your relationships? Or what about these deeper desires that you have to make some kind of impact on the world or to, you know, be the change that you wish to see in the world? What about the deeper evolutionary and relational stuff going on here? That's this square on Wednesday. It's like, we know we need to change. The sun can see Pluto, but it doesn't like it. It's not comfortable. It's uncomfortable change. So this is definitely a day where it's like, okay, if we want to evolve into the change that we want, or the change that we know that is scary and uncomfortable, but is necessary, right? We need to slow the F down. Slow the F down. And it could feel heavy, but there is something that needs to happen here where it's like, you know, for some people, this could be a choice to end something, to break something off, to face an uncomfortable hidden truth that we've kind of repressed or buried and put it out of our awareness. The sun is our awareness. Our awareness wants to focus on what's comfortable and stable and feels good. But Pluto's like, you can't ignore me. I'm still here. I'm still in your closet where you put me, or I'm still in your basement, still in the same house. So you can't ignore this, right? And so this is very light versus dark, okay? Light versus dark, some unconscious stuff that's coming up. This could even be some, change or situation that happens with somebody outside of you or something outside of you. It may not have to do with you yourself, but something outside of you. It's like, well, I wanted to go to the spa and get my hair done and get my nails done and like have like a me day, but my partner's throwing a temper tantrum, having a bad day, or there's this massive change I just became aware of that really needs my attention, and it's serious and it's not what I really want to do, but I feel like it's necessary. So that is how I see this. And also, always with the sun and Pluto involved as well, there's always going to be some level of like life and death, light and dark, good and evil, right and wrong. But it's not going to be so potentially easy to pinpoint here. The right thing we may actually perceive as the wrong thing, and vice versa. So yeah, we want to be content, and yeah, we want to be comfortable, but you can't be comfortable. You can only be comfortable for so long if you have mold growing in your basement, right? And that's kind of how I see this. It's like, well, we just won't go down there. We'll focus on the top floor. We'll make the top floor really pretty and comfortable. But eventually you're going to have to deal with the mold in the basement, or else it's just going to take over, right? Pluto is like, hey, I'm down here. I'm still here. There's some kind of change that we are escalating to, it's like a culmination, right? And it's like, and this is the first quarter square since the sun, came into contact with Pluto, which was, kind of mid to end January, I believe. We had the sun conjunct Pluto in Aquarius right at the start of Aquarius season. And so something started around that time, or something was revealed around that time. And then now the sun is squaring Pluto for the first quarter square, and is like, okay, we're running into the first turning point, the first shift since then. And now that I just went through all this the last few months, now I want to be comfortable. I want to relax. I want to put my slippers on. I want to get cozy. I want to focus on life and not have to focus on all the death, change, darkness, misery, unconscious stuff, like whatever, right? But it's like, doesn't mean that it's not there. So this could be something revealed to us, or some kind of information kind of coming out, us realizing something, a change happening outside of us that, makes us realize something. But watch out, again, that happens right around Wednesday. And then also on Wednesday, we have Venus coming into her conjunction with the North Node as well. Once and for all, it'll be exact, and then she'll start to pass it on Wednesday. And again, that's why this day seems like a really big deal. The sun squaring Pluto, Venus joins the North Node for the final time this year, and it feels like there is some important big karmic lesson to do with what we want, and that it's not always going to be easy or comfortable. And that brings us into Thursday, because on Thursday we have Venus and Saturn then coming into their final conjunction, and Venus basically stationed direct on Saturn. I mean, she's been pretty close to Saturn. They've been pretty close, kind of moving through Pisces together. So this Venus retrograde has been very Saturnian. It's had a lot of karma to it. And that's why I've said the last couple months have been very, very karmic. Last few months have been very, very, very karmic. And a lot of relationship stuff, a lot of stuff to do with our desires, our wants, what we find pleasure in, what we truly deeply desire from like the bottom of our heart. And sometimes what we truly deeply desire, and it's also been about closing out old cycles from the past, old karmas from the past, lessons in commitment, lessons in, what are you willing to hold? What are you willing to commit to? What are you willing to devote yourself to? It's really been lessons in devotion. Can you devote yourself to something that you love, that you want, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't all make sense? This is Pisces. You just have a feeling. Because Venus, Saturn here, coming into their final conjunction of the year, again, a lot of karma here is wrapping up. And again, we are realizing consequences, commitments, boundaries, responsibilities, the weight of what we truly desire, and accepting the responsibility and the commitment that comes with our true wants and desires, that comes with what we love and find pleasure in. And I think that's what this is really about here. For some people, it could be about finally making that decision in love, or finally making that decision with the things that you love, or the dreams that you have, or what you want for yourself, your life, or finally letting go of something you've realized that has expired, that is no longer for you. It's like getting off the fence in some way. We want the desires, but we don't want the bad that comes with it, or the heaviness that comes with it. We want the good without the bad. And that's what this week is so much about. That's why I said love and loss, because to love means that you're going to go through loss of old parts of you, loss of old behaviors, loss of old habits, potentially the loss of them, the loss of time together, the loss of, happiness, if you have moments where you're in pain because of the love, to love is to lose. It's like constantly falling, allowing yourself to just kind of fall, because it's a surrender. That's so much of like Venus and Saturn. And so I think that we're getting honest about what we truly want and what we love, and the uncomfortable truths to do with this. The deep, dark desires that we have in relationships, or that we have in our lives that we aren't truly fulfilling. Where are we not truly fulfilled? Where have we realized that there's like a big void in our lives, or there's like a big space in our lives that we cannot fill because we aren't doing the things that we desire to be doing, or living the life that we desire to do? It's like lack, Saturn could be showing you where something is lacking in your life and where you're not fulfilled. Or it could be showing you where you have failed to commit to what you truly want and desire, or where you haven't accepted the necessary changes and consequences of what comes with what you desire. And I think that's going to be a really big one. So like, for instance, this is like a way lesser, I guess it's a big deal for me, but I think it's not as impactful as some of the other stuff I've had going on that is a little bit more private, so I can't really talk about it right now. Maybe I will one day, but I'm thinking like a lot bigger with these transits. So I want to let you know that. But a smaller example of this is I decided to quit vaping last week. It's been a decision I've been going back and forth with, on the fence. Like I said, I've been on the fence, kind of, trying things out here and there, and then being like, I don't think I really want it bad enough. So I'm just going to go back and start vaping again. I've been vaping since like 2018. I used to like smoke cigarettes before that. And I remember vaping used to seem so cool to me. It used to be like, oh, that's so cool. Like your whole car just smells like vanilla or whatever. And you just smell like a big cupcake all the time. And you're just blowing out clouds of smoke. And it's like so cool. And I don't know, like now that I'm like 33, I'm like, that's not cool. It's not cool to me anymore. It's not cute, okay? It's not cute to me anymore. It's not cute to be that addicted to a little electronic box, to where it's like literally in my hand, even though I don't remember picking it up. It's in my hand all the time. So much so that I do it in my sleep, okay? Like it's gotten really bad to where I will vape in my sleep. And so I've known for a while this was going to be a biatch to quit, okay? I was like really considering like hypnosis or something. I just didn't know how much it would cost, or like who to even contact to do that. So it's just been something I've put off and put off and put off. It's been something I've not even been attracted to anymore. Venus, right? Something I don't want anymore. But I was not willing to put the discomfort. It's like the discomfort I wanted to avoid more than getting what I wanted, if that makes sense. Like I was basically like not like more, how am I trying? I'm trying to find like the right words. They're like right there. I was basically more like I was desiring to not face the discomfort more than facing the discomfort. Like basically if you're weighing it out, right? It's like even though I wanted it, I didn't want to face the consequences that came with like me no longer doing it. Even though I wanted to stop, I didn't want to face the consequences. So what are your priorities, Taurus sun? What's more of value to you, right? Being comfortable, doing something you don't want to do, but at least you're not having to face the fear and the discomfort and the, withdrawals of nicotine and the subconscious constant, wanting to pick up of the vape and like all of that. Like at least you don't have to face the consequences and you don't have to go through with the commitment even when it's hard, right? Venus, Saturn, even when it's hard. At least you don't have to face that. So, okay, I'll settle for something I'm already doing and I'm already used to, even though I don't want to do it anymore, even though I'm not attracted to it anymore, even though I don't even like doing it anymore. It's literally just became such a habit at this point because I don't want to face the hard stuff that comes with stopping. That is what this time is about, and that is a small example of what I mean. So I'm not nicotine free yet. I've been using, like the patches or whatever. It has been very hard in the nighttime, in case you're wondering. I still do hit my vape a couple times in my sleep, but not like I wake up to hit it, but I won't hit it right away. Like I'll wake up, go back to sleep, but I'll keep waking up, and then eventually I'll like take a hit, and then I'll be good for another few hours, and then it might happen again. But I've got to where I'm not vaping all day long, which is insane to me because if I wasn't like in a building where I couldn't vape, if I was able to vape, I was vaping a lot, like every like 10 minutes, if that at times, like it was bad. It was bad. So, and also like what made me want to stop because this is what I mean. It's like that fuck it moment where what you want becomes more desirable than your own fears of staying comfortable. That's what I was trying to say before. Like where your own, your own want, the thing that you desire becomes more of a big deal to you, more of a priority to you, more of a value to you than the discomfort and the fear that comes along with, you deciding to do it. And so I think that, I kind of had that fuck it moment because what also I've been noticing is I have to clear my throat like all the time. And I can't stand it. And that's just started like the last, few months now where I started noticing that. It was like I couldn't talk using my real voice hardly. Like it was like hard for me to do that sometimes. And that would drive me nuts. And it was like, I don't want that. It was just starting to cost me, right? Because staying where it may be more comfortable, even though you're in a place where you don't desire, will also cost you. Either way, what you desire and what you want will cost you. Or staying comfortable and not going after what you want will cost you too. And you have to decide, Venus conjunct Saturn, which cost is more to you? Which cost are you more willing to pay? And which cost are you not willing to pay? And I think that that's what it really comes down to with Venus Saturn. Like we have to be willing to accept the consequences, the commitments, the decisions, and the cause and effect that come from the things that we want, even when it's heavy, even when it's hard. I talked about last week's horoscope of my plant medicine ceremony I did for the Libra full moon last week, and decisions, and how it was so based on like decisions. And I was like holding all these old consequences over my head because of decisions I made, and then consequences that came from those decisions. And then I was like judging myself and like blaming myself for it. And it's so dumb because it's like, okay, well, I made a decision with the information I had in that moment. And just because there were some bad things that came later doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision necessarily. Like in my mind, I would like trace it back to like that big decision I made and, all of that, and be like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And so it's like, it's so dumb. And it's like, okay, well, there's going to be consequences that come with every decision that we make. There's going to be shit that happens with the things that we want, the things that we desire. There's going to be a cause and effect. And if we focus so much on the effects of it and then use the effects and the consequences to blame ourselves, we're not really getting anywhere. And so again, and I think this is a very like Saturn is thinking about the future. Saturn is thinking about what do I want for the long term. So we are breaking like long-term cycles, long-term habits, long-term patterns, karmic long-term stuff here. And instead of just, basically sacrificing our long-term desires, our long-term pleasure, our long-term fulfillment for short-term fulfillment. Where have we been doing that in our lives, and what has that cost us, right? And this isn't to judge yourself for it or to beat yourself up over it, because that's not helpful either. That's not going to get you anywhere either. You're not a victim. You made some decisions, and it's really about where are you not okay with those decisions. Like, you're the judge, jury, and executioner here, right? You're the person that decides. You're not like, it's not about like, oh, you're wrong because you did XYZ. It's like, no, like you had a part in it and you're forgiven whenever you decide you are, right? It's all up to you. And so, and that could be another thing we see, forgiveness for old commitments, old things, old desires, old, stuff that has like costed us or that has been heavy that we've been carrying on our backs. And where we need to have more compassion for ourselves. Okay. And then this really leads into Saturday, which is April 26th, where again, we have Pluto and Mars, and this is where they officially come exact. But again, we are already feeling this, and we'll be feeling it pretty much all week this week. We probably started feeling it last week and noticing things come up with it again. But Mars and Pluto are officially standing off with each other again, opposite of each other again. And I think that this is very much, just on a very basic level to start off with, Mars and Leo, the self, the pride, the honor, the courage, the confidence, the respect for self, the knight in shining armor, the hero, where we, see ourselves, what feels good to us. What are we passionate about? What are we confident about? What are we ambitious about? What do we truly desire to move forward on? Where are we not self-assured, and where are we self-assured? What are our talents? What are our skills? Where do we shine? Claiming who we are. That's like Mars and Leo, some of it, right? Pluto in Aquarius is, again, this evolution of self. It's more concerned with how do we kind of move forward together? How does everybody collectively feel? Like, what is your place in the greater whole? This is the society. This is everyone. This is, futuristic. Mars and Leo can also be selfish, whereas Pluto and Aquarius can be selfless. So we're dealing with these different polarities here. It's like a reckoning with who we've been being and how that fits into something greater in our lives, how that impacts others, how that impacts other places in our lives and other people in our lives. And I think this opposition has also really shown us like the light and the dark within our own selves. I think that's also been a huge part of this. Something else I've really noticed is because anytime this opposition has come up over the last few months, I've started watching some kind of like show that's like this medieval show. Like I was watching like Rings of Power and Lord of the Rings back in December timeframe. And then now I'm catching up on the Wheel of Time. And, it's like, these heroes and these, kings and queens and, people that are very honorable and respectable, Leo, and have a lot of confidence and badassery within themselves. And then there's like the rejects, the fringe, the weird ones or the silent ones that end up having like a lot of power and they don't quite fit in, Pluto and Aquarius, right? And so I've like seen so many of these different characteristics of this pair of signs, these opposite signs, and it's been really interesting. But one of the things I've really noticed with this is where ego is cute and necessary and where it's not so cute, where it becomes kind of unattractive, where people become stubborn, spoiled, selfish, prideful, boastful, cocky, this kind of thing. It's like I've seen that whether in shows I've watched or in even looking back at my own life, just all kinds of different ways. I feel like this is where the ego needs to be balanced out, but also where it's necessary. And we could be experiencing different kind of ends of this lesson. Lately, I've noticed since Mars has moved back in Leo, I'm feeling a similar energy to how I was feeling in the beginning of December, where I'm listening to like a lot of my like old school, high school, like rap music, which is very like prideful, boastful, like makes you feel like you are just like a badass and you can do whatever you want to do. And and it's like, because I'm also an Aquarius moon, I'm also like watching it and I'm like, wow, so I've got like these two sides of me where I can be very humble and self-aware and like all of that. And I also have this side of me that can get super confident sometimes and just be very like very confident in myself, very sure of myself, and have this like deep inner knowing of who I am and what I want. And then I also have other times where I don't have that anymore because I also have Chiron on my ascendant in Leo. So anyway, but I've seen these two polarities a lot. And, I know like the spiritual community like vilifies ego and stuff, but ego is necessary. And I do think that there is a healthy way to accept your ego. I think that when you're embracing your personality traits and when you're just embracing like yourself, almost like a child would, like you're owning who you are, you're owning your talents and your personality and shining just for who you are. And it's not this like, it doesn't come into this competition with others or this comparison with others where it's like, oh, I'm better than them or whatever, right? Like it's not like that. It's just a genuine light that you start kind of broadcasting just for being you and just for accepting yourself for who you are and allowing yourself to shine. That's like the true essence, I think, of Leo and how I see Leo. And I think that this is what we're kind of coming into. It's like ego is needed. There is a reason the ego exists. It is needed, or else we wouldn't know whose mouth to put food in. And there is a self-preservation to it. It is a very deep thing inside of us, and it's to help us, and there's not really any way that we cannot do something that is completely selfish because we are all connected. Pluto and Aquarius, we are all connected. The higher octave of Aquarius here, anything that I do for you, I get something out of it, even if it's just like, oh, that felt good to do that. Or, oh, I cleared space in my life by giving someone that. It's like somehow, some way, we are getting something out of it. Even people pleasing is selfish because all you're doing is avoiding conflict. That's all you're doing. It's like, well, I don't want to rock the boat, or I don't want to make that person mad at me, or I don't want to cause any friction, or I want them to be happy and keep them from, being frustrated with me. So I'm going to keep serving and serving and serving and pleasing and pleasing and pleasing. And it's really, you're getting something out of it, or else you wouldn't be doing it, right? And so it's not really about selfish or selfishness, although that's how we could see some of it playing out. I think that it's more like, how are these two connected? This is an opposition. Can we be our truest, most authentic selves and not need everybody else to validate that or agree with that or even like that, but also know that we're all connected and those people are just a projection of potentially where we don't like ourselves anywhere, where we haven't accepted certain things about ourselves, because really what it comes down to is how much does the individual have to sacrifice for society and how much does society have to sacrifice for the individual? And everybody's going to have probably a different answer on that question or a different, way to measure that question. And I think that as a society, we've gotten so used to like vilifying people as well that are very confident or very sure of themselves or very powerful or very authoritative or whatever the case may be. And it's like, well, like I not everybody is a narcissist, but yes, there are some narcissists. It's like I feel like so many people just like kind of just draw like like put like everybody in like categories, like we always categorize things and try to fit people into a box. It's like, if they did something bad, then they must all be bad. And everybody like them must be bad too. If it's a bad cop, then cops are all bad. If it's a bad astrologer, then astrology is not real. Like if it's if that person committed, a crime or broke the law, then, they are a bad person altogether. And it's not that black and white. Because nobody is one thing and one thing only. We know that about ourselves, but it's like we forget that about everybody else. If one person does something bad, it doesn't mean they also can't do something good, or that bad thing that they did isn't somehow also good in some way for somebody else, from a different angle, from a different perspective. And so I think that a lot of this is about seeing these archetypes in ourselves. Therefore, we can be more compassionate and self-aware with society. It always starts within. When, I was triggered for a while by like the state of the world last year, and like, all of this stuff going on and what was going to happen and where it was all going to go. And even now and again, like I see certain things that are just like, wow, like I really don't understand violence. And I talked about this like a few weeks ago too, like how it's like I was feeling like collective emotions that like weren't even mine. And it's like fear porn and like, anger porn and like just all this stuff to like just make people angry and hate each other. And it's just so like, I'm just so over it. It's like, I'm so over it. And I don't want to participate in that personally. And I feel like, because again, we are all connected, and that's why I think the US right now is so divided, because, some people see some things a certain way and other people see it a very different way. Some people see certain events, certain people as bad, and other people see them as good. And I think, it's like, oh, and it almost like I've noticed this thing where it like gives people some kind of excuse to like react or to do things in a way that is not morally correct, because they've told themselves that none of the other side is morally correct. And this happens on both sides. So I'm not even just pinning it on one side. And it's like, we cannot fit into a box. You can't just say, oh, all people on that side are just not morally correct, or all people on that side are just not morally correct. And because that you can't fit into a box, like I know I can't, I know that I agree with all kinds of different things that the world and society and the media and social media would have you thinking contradict each other. You can't, like this, but also like that, or like that, but also support this, or like, and it's dumb. And I think that if there were like a true, actual freaking like poll that like went around to most people, that we'd actually find that most of us have way more in common than we think we do. And so vision in the world has like bothered me for a long time. And I definitely think that so many of the transits happening this year are really bringing it up, because until we start to find some kind of middle ground, until we start to see ourselves in the other, there's not going to be much unity. And I don't really truly think anybody wants war. I don't think most people want war, and those that do have no freaking idea, I think, what to expect or what they're even talking about. Because I mean, it's like I don't want to get to a point where, again, Pluto and Aquarius, where people have to start dying, or people that we love have to start dying, for us to just find a middle ground, And so, and again, like I know some people watching this might be like, oh, well, we could if it wasn't for X, Y, Z. There's stuff on both sides, It's like both sides are gonna have to kind of like agree to let go of their pride, their ego, boxing stuff in, and making it out to be like this, the other side is this and the other side is that. They're going to have to let go of potentially some of what they've been told, because I think that a lot of people don't even really know the truth, and I feel like that's something on both sides as well with different things. I think that there's so much that we don't even know. And so to sit here and be so sure and so attached to like one narrative, when I think most people know that the media and that people lie, especially people that are in positions of power, politicians, etc. Like I said last week, I just finished Blacklist, and I feel like that is so accurate to what happens in the world and in our politics and stuff. And so, I mean, to sit here and think that anybody knows the 100% truth about anything, and then to try to make a decision or hate other people based off of only knowing maybe a small percentage of the truth is not helpful. And then also worrying ourselves about it. Pluto and Aquarius, feeling the collective doom and gloom and all of the all of the worry and all of the fear and all of the, just all of it is deteriorating in so many ways, because in so many ways, unless you want to run for some kind of position, we're powerless over it. And again, all of this goes back to my original question. How much does the individual have to sacrifice for society versus how much does society have to sacrifice for the individual? And I think that no matter, for different topics, it would be different answers to that, And so I think that, one, like I always say, Mars in Leo, and as a Leo rising, I am all about authenticity. I am all about people being their authentic self, claiming who they are, shining for who they are, and owning who they are, claiming who they are. It is so healing. But I also know that not everybody is going to like that. When you start embracing who you are and you're bold enough and audacious enough to claim who you are and what you're good at and, your confidence, people are going to get jealous of that. People are not going to like that, or people are going to be turned off by it and not be comfortable about it. That's fine. Only if it bothers you is it a problem. And if it bothers you, it's not necessarily their problem. It's, why does it bother you? Why does it bother you? Why do you need their validation? Why do you need them to change for you to be you? That's personally how I see it. As long as you have the right to be you, as long as we have the right to be ourselves, dress how we want to dress, we have the same rights and freedoms, then I feel like it's all that's what matters, And so I think that a lot of this opposition is owning who we are, even in the face of fear and the unknown. Owning who we are, and also settling our fears and our shadows that hold us back from owning who we are. Shedding these fears and insecurities and deep subconscious issues with rejection. And, Mars and Leo, what is our true desire for ourselves? Where have we been wearing a mask or not ourselves due to fear or others or rejection or insecurity or feeling different? Letting go of old identities or an old identity. It's like things that are no longer aligned with who we are. And also, I think this really brings up judging past versions of ourselves, because I've again have a lot of experience with that, judging past versions of ourselves for decisions that we've made, or even in my Snapchat memories, my social media memories, I'll occasionally have a memory come up from years ago, when I first started YouTube or something, and I almost kind of cringe, and I'm and it's and we all do this, right? We all, I'm sure, do this, see past versions of ourselves and kind of cringe. But the thing is, and what I actually realized years ago from this and from that experience was actually let's be real here. If I'm going to sit here and judge past me, let's look at the whole context here. Okay, I'm judging past me who is who in my mind I'm seeing as not very secure in herself, not even able to use her real voice yet, not really expressing herself, still kind of holding back or, being awkward or whatever. I'm sitting here judging those things, but I'm not seeing where she was so freaking confident enough to put herself out on the internet for the first time, doing her first video because she believed in herself that much. I can judge past me who was an addict, in my teen years and early 20s. But okay, let's look at the whole context. I had an immense amount of strength to be able to pull myself out of that. I had an immense amount of pain that I was carrying, that I was able to hold, and just dealt with it and coped with it in a way that was very unhealthy and toxic. But somehow, even though I felt I had nothing left and nothing else to spare, I was able to pull myself out of it. A lot of the times, the past versions of ourselves that we are judging or cringing at, we're going through some of the most deepest transformative times in our lives, and they carried us through. They helped us survive those times because that is when the strength of who we really were came out. That is when our true power revealed itself. So instead of judging past versions of us. Remember what they were going through and the strength they had to have to go through that. And I think that's a huge part of this opposition too. So, who we've needed to be, out of survival versus who we actually are is another way that this could come up for a lot of people. The key to your next level is in the challenge right in front of you that you're not wanting to face. And I think that that's a lot of this. Can we face the eeriness, the unknown, the fear, the darkness, the deeper stuff, the deeper unconscious material that has felt very challenging and has somehow inconvenienced us in some way? Because that is really the key to our next level. That is really the key to this massive transformation and identity upgrade that we are going through. The key to your next level is always in the fears and the challenges and the things that you're not doing in your current reality. It's always in those things, and changing those things and making decisions on those things and facing those things are what quantum leap us in a whole new way, are what upgrade us in a whole new way. And that's what this week feels like. It feels intense, but it feels like because of the truths, no matter how uncomfortable or hard to admit to ourselves, or the necessities, the heavy necessities, the heavy consequences, that we have to face that are necessary. It's like because of that, we are finally able to come into some kind of wholeness within our being. We are finally able to see ourselves for who we truly are and see our strength, true strength, not this mask of bravado and acting like something that we aren't and being, a spoiled, careless brat about it. But like true strength is actually facing these situations in our lives, whatever Pluto and Aquarius is representing for you. True strength is actually facing that. Facing ourselves and what it says about ourselves, even when it's hard to accept or sit with, and it may not even be true. But if we're truly tapped into our power, we know that it's not a threat to us. And that's the thing. When you're truly confident, when you're truly tapped into your power, other people or what other people trigger in you, isn't a threat to you. Your own triggers no longer become a threat because you know that you can handle it. You know that you're a badass that can handle your shit. And you start having faith in yourself to be able to do it. Mars trining Neptune this time around. You start having that self-belief. Okay, let's say you give up on a lot of things that you end up liking, and then you tell yourself you're a failure, and then you just hold yourself back and never do it. Okay, face it, accept it, and change it, and get off the fucking fence. Because you're not going to keep feeling like, you're not going to stop feeling like you're a failure while you continue to procrastinate on it and tell yourself some made up story about why it didn't work out or why it couldn't happen or why it's not possible. So last but not least, Sunday. And on Sunday, we have the Taurus New Moon. Oh, I was not expecting a heart there, but okay. The Taurus New Moon, the moon by that time will move into the sign of Taurus, and we will have the new moon there, which will be a few degrees past the Mars-Pluto opposition, and Mars will be starting to come out of the opposition with Pluto by then, but it is still really interesting. It's almost like whatever this week is bringing up before this new moon on Sunday, this new moon is kind of concreting it. This new moon is starting some brand new beginning with it. It's taking all of it, and it's like, all right, that's great. I'm going to do what I desire now, and we are going to make sure that this sticks. Taurus being a fixed earth sign. It's like all of this stuff is like, basically leading to with, a Taurus new moon, fuck bitches get money. Just kidding. Taurus new moon. But no, it's really leading up to knowing our true worth, knowing our self-worth. Sun in Taurus, moon joining the sun in Taurus, feminine sign, Venusian sign, Venus coming off of Saturn. It's like we're taking all these lessons and we are grounding it into some kind of new beginning. Some kind of, it's like we're planting seeds for some kind of fresh start, some kind of new beginning. creating some kind of concrete change with it. Okay. So like I said, and I'm going to do a whole video on the Taurus New Moon like I always do, so that's why I didn't focus on it too much here. Also, if you stayed until this part, comment down below, badass alien, because you are, and that way I know that you're still here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Like I said, we are going to briefly go through what this means for your rising sign. So we're not going to spend too long on this just because it is, I already have I'm going to be doing horoscopes for the new moon anyway. And then also, I went over this Mars-Pluto opposition in depth in my April horoscopes. And so that's why I usually don't touch on the signs, the horoscopes. Like, I don't touch on the signs in these weekly horoscopes because I do the 12 signs in literally every other video. And so I've already went over it again. And so I just a lot of times feel like it'll just be repetitive. But for this, I'm just going to quickly touch on the signs and, what it all means and all of that. And we're going to do it a little bit differently since it is just going to be like a quick thing. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because that's not really the point of this video. But let's go ahead and talk about what this is, kind of what I think this is going to be, or what it could be in terms of where this is happening in your chart. Obviously, with these horoscopes, this could be playing a part in so many other areas of your life. And that's why you want to watch the the actual monthly horoscopes, because I try to bring in all of the other aspects and all the other places and areas of life this could be bringing in for you with these transits. But with, doing these kind of quicker horoscopes, I don't really have time to do all of that right now. So okay, so we're going to go through the signs just in a, kind of where we kind of go through the sign and its opposite sign, since it's going to be happening in like the same houses pretty much for most of the signs, pretty much all of the signs in some way. I'll kind of adjust when I need to. But so for Leo risings, I'm going to start with Leo risings just because, Mars is now returned into Leo, and so much of this is really about Mars and Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius. And so my fellow Leo risings, first off, and also Aquarius risings, this is really about you, yourself, and yourself, me, myself, and I, basically, versus other people and relationships and what I want in relationships, what I desire in relationships versus what I want and desire within myself. For Leo risings, and like in particular, this is like what you want and desire for yourself and your life on a soul level versus really big, potentially big kind of changes going on with other people in your life and your deepest desires in terms of a partnership or partnerships in your life, your deepest desires in terms of relationships and what you want out of your future. Do your futures align with the sun in Taurus kind of making squares to this opposition this week? It's like, does this all align? What do you want? And you may have been feeling pulled between what you thought you wanted or an old dream or desires from an old you, or what feels fun and easy and freeing and, focusing on yourself versus this extreme kind of focus or these extreme changes or these extreme kind of subconscious or unconscious changes going on within relationships and the potential unconscious patterns and cycles that Pluto could be bringing up of death and transformation and death and rebirth here to do with your relationships and what that says about you. Also facing fears in relationships, facing fears when it comes to your own confidence. Pluto's kind of staring directly through you. Like if you're wearing a mask or you're not feeling authentic, Pluto's kind of like asking you to be real, to take accountability, to own your shadow side, to own your deeper desires, to own the truth and not keep hiding it from yourself. And for Aquarius risings, it is basically the opposite here. For you as an Aquarius rising, this is going to be more about, it's still going to be like self and other, you and relationships, but it could be, potential like people outside of you kind of like testing your power or testing you, or it feels like they're like testing your confidence or testing like what control you have over yourself, in some way, shape, or form with Pluto in the first. It could feel like there's like a lot of confrontation or controversial changes or situations happening with other people in your life to some degree, that could deal with like rejection, confidence, insecurity, fitting in versus standing out, love, passion, etc. And, also with, the Taurus sun moving through your fourth house, how home, family, private life, personal matters in the past are all kind of getting drug into that as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to Pisces and Virgo risings. This Mars-Pluto opposition is happening in your guys' 12th and 6th house. So this is very, very much your unconscious habits, patterns, cycles, the past, versus your conscious patterns, habits, cycles, routines, potentially your job, and how you take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. This is like what you actually know that you do to take care of yourself and your life and your duties and your tasks and your responsibilities versus where you work against that in some kind of unconscious, subconscious way. Okay, so for Virgo and Pisces, this opposition is really bringing up buried stuff or repressed stuff that needs to be faced, and that could be either working against you or causing some external physical things or changes in your life right now that you're not really thinking about. For Pisces rising in particular, this could be bringing up like challenges at work with people that are boastful or confident or authority figures or confrontations or changes, but also really just like it's showing you where to step into your own authority at work and with taking care of yourself and with what your true heart's desires are in terms of your day-to-day life, and what unconscious shit or deeper stuff is really kind of holding you back from that you need to face. And for Virgo rising, this is very much about where you potentially don't always stand up for yourself or don't always shine for like your talents and yourself. It could really be a lot of unconscious stuff coming to light that starts changing within you. So really own your own inner sense of authority. This is about getting back to your own inner knowing and acting from that place. And that could have been thrown off over the last several months as you maybe went through some things, some situations, some health situations maybe, or some work situations that felt very out of your control and very chaotic. And so this has definitely also been a lot about the power of your mind and how that affects your body, your health, your job, and your own kind of repressed sense of confidence or your own subconscious cycles to do with confidence and to do with shining and to do with like knowing who you are. And so that is what I see for Virgo risings and Pisces risings. Moving on to Aries and Libra risings, this Mars-Pluto opposition is happening in the 5th and 11th house for you guys. And so this is very much about like friends and people that you associate with, like where you feel you belong, social groups that you feel you belong in or have something in common with, or that, somehow know you, like the cliques that you're a part of or the different kind of social dynamics that you're a part of, versus what you really want, desire, love, where you really find passion, enjoyment, fun, pleasure, happiness, potentially children or your own inner child, love, romance. And so in some way, these two areas of life could feel like they have been pulling you in two different directions. It's like, well, to fit in and not be rejected, I have to go along with something, but that also means repressing this other part of myself, or repressing the fact that I don't really desire this or like this anymore, or repressing the fact that this doesn't feel aligned on like a soul level or with my heart, or that maybe I don't feel I totally belong anymore, right? And so it's really a lot about belonging and where you belong and what is truly, like where your heart truly is at within all of this, okay? And so, and somehow this could be tying in finances or obligations and entanglements with others, resources, finances, etc. in some way, shape, or form, with Taurus moving through, or the Taurus sun moving through Aries' 2nd house and Libra's 8th house, okay? And so that is what I'm seeing for you guys. Let me know down below how that resonates. And again, there's deeper horoscopes in my monthly videos, so go back and visit those and to get kind of even more info, okay? So alrighty, Taurus and Scorpio risings, this Mars-Pluto opposition is definitely really powerful for you guys. Like this is some kind of big mother effing change that is happening for you guys in terms of what you want for your future. You know, focusing on your future, focusing on your goals, focusing on your achievements, where you want to shine or at least be in control of that. Where do you want to go in your life? Versus something going on with your private life, your personal life, your internal world, your home and family, your comfort zone. Okay, so this is kind of like, okay, who do I want to be in the world and what do I want to do in the world and what impact do I want to make on a bigger level? What legacy do I want to leave behind? What do I want to be known for? What do I want my life to look like? What do I envision for my life? Versus like, you know, home, family, private life, etc. So like for some of you, there could be a lot of changes going on with your home and family. And that's kind of pushing you to start thinking about more about what you actually want for your life. Maybe I don't belong here. You know, maybe it's time for me to move out and move somewhere else. Or maybe it's time for me to focus more on my career. Or maybe it's time that I own my confidence in what I really want to my family. You know, maybe it's time that I own my sense of assertiveness to my family in some way, or to my boss, or to the world, right? Maybe it's time I shine and put myself out there. Maybe it's time I claim who I really am and let the world know who I really am and own my authentic self and my authentic talents and quit trying to hide it because of rejection wounds with my family or rejection wounds in the world or what I think society is going to do or be like or how I think society is going to treat me or the world's going to treat me. Basically, what really this reminds me of for you guys, Taurus and Scorpio, is like quit waiting on the world to change for you to change, or quit waiting on your family to change for you to change. Quit waiting on anybody to change for you to change. Be the change, right? When you be the change, that's when everybody changes. That's when everything changes. Right? And so that's what I'm seeing for you guys. Let me know down below if that resonated. Again, if you want to hear kind of more in-depth versions of this, go watch the April monthly videos. I went a lot more in depth in there, okay? And if you didn't watch the beginning, you're definitely going to not want to miss that part. This week is crazy, and this is a very, very little small piece of it. So, okay. Gemini and Sag risings, this opposition of Pluto and Mars, again, is happening in your 3rd and 9th house. So this is kind of like your environment, your local community, and your comfort zone, where you're from, what you're comfortable with, maybe like being in kind of like a little small town and feeling comfortable versus like living abroad or going to like a different country or like traveling somewhere where you're not familiar with anything, being out of your comfort zone or learning something that's really out of your comfort zone, like getting pulled out of your comfort zone in some way, figuring out what you really believe instead of just what you've been told, getting out of your own like little bubble or your own little world and actually like getting into something bigger. Now it could be vice versa for one of you, okay? Like for Gemini risings especially, I feel like it would be more so you guys. It's like you've had to face a lot of things that maybe have been out of your control in terms of bigger things going on in your life or in the world. And it's been like, ugh, I don't really have power over that. But I do have power in my personal day-to-day life, in my personal day-to-day routines, in my personal environment. I can own who I am here. I can claim who I am and what I want here. I can show up here. I can make a difference here. It's like you're bringing it back down to your own, what you do have power over, what you can change, what you can affect, what you can do, instead of focusing on all the things that you can't. But for Sag risings, it could be the opposite, where it feels like, you know, there may be something out of your control going on in your environment or in your neighborhood or in your city or in your day-to-day life in some way. And Mars and Leo in the 9th is like, well, I've kind of been wanting to go on this adventure. I've kind of been wanting to like own these like deeper beliefs and desires that I have and like claim them and shine and allow them to shine instead of holding it all in because my town rejected me or I was bullied in school or my family rejected me or whatever. It's like maybe you felt like a kind of like a reject growing up or like an outcast growing up in your city or your town or where you're from or in school or like whatever or with family. And now it's like, but you are not that person anymore. You've grown and you've learned so much. Like own your confidence in whatever it is that you're teaching or learning or experienced in or wherever you want to go in the world or whatever the hell you want to do, like own it, you know? And so I think that's what a lot of this is about for you guys as Sag and Gemini risings. If you want more, definitely make sure to go watch the April horoscopes because I went a lot more in depth for each sign in there. And then also, if you missed the beginning, the whole other part of this video, like that's the main part, okay? Like this is a very small piece of it. So you need to go back and watch because this is a big week you don't want to miss. Okay. Cancer risings and Capricorn risings, this Pluto-Mars opposition is happening in your 2nd and 8th house for you guys. So this is a lot about your entanglements and karma with other people. That could be financial, that could be energetic, that could just be in so many different other ways, right? Like, you're in this relationship and this happens, and now you're in this relationship and now you're the one doing it. It's just like any kind of like entanglements, karma with other people. It can be financial at times or like something physical, but also it doesn't have to always be, okay? Versus what you have to offer, your own priorities, your own money, your own things that you own, your own finances, your own income, all of that. And so there could be kind of this, building tension that has been going on off and on since the end of last year of 2024, between kind of what you want and have versus what other people have or want, like things that are kind of out of your control to maybe do with other people, like especially like Cancer rising. This could be you guys having to step into your authority and your leadership and your confidence with your abilities, your capabilities, your talents, your resources, your money to kind of change something or deal with some kind of fear or change regarding maybe your partner's finances or a debt that you just found out about, or a situation that kind of has felt out of your control or a little bit scary or a little bit heavy or a little bit deep to deal with, to do with something going on outside of you that you're trying to step it up for or change for. Now, on the other end of that, Capricorn risings, this could be the opposite for you, where it's like there's something going on outside of you that is like pushing you to kind of own your power and be very resourceful, and also to step into your confidence when it deals with other people and other, entanglements with other people in some way, to own your fears around, face your fears around loss, to face your fears around insecurities, especially when it comes to what you own or what you have to offer. Okay, that's really big here. So, okay, and that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Cancer and Capricorn risings. Again, if you want a lot more details on this opposition this week, go see my April monthly horoscopes video. I went into a lot more details for each sign. So go watch your horoscope again for April. And also, if you missed the beginning, go back and watch, okay? Because you definitely don't want to miss this week's horoscope. That was a lot. You're gonna want to go back and watch that. So go check it out. Thank me later, okay? Comment badass alien down below if you are still here. That was kind of late. I probably need to add it a little bit earlier. But comment down below if you are still here. I love you guys. Thank you so much.